We've got Westpac's chief economist, James Shugg. He's in the studio with me now. Good to see you again, James. Thanks for coming in. So as we were hearing there, a big week ahead for the US and indeed everyone, investors around the world, really waiting to see the outcome of those congressional elections in the US, and also whether or not we're going to see more, how much more stimulus we're going to see from the Fed. What will you be watching for?
Well, firstly, we don't yet know, of course, what the Congress is going to look like, the new Congress. I mean, if the Republicans actually win both houses, the question is then going to be, is Obama going to try and cooperate on a policy-by-policy basis with the opposing Congress, or are they going to be more confrontational? I mean, President Clinton managed to get some key pieces of legislation through because he negotiated with Congress, even though they were from the opposing side, and there was some successes in that front. But Obama might decide that for his own political purposes, facing re-election in 2 years' time, that it might be better to be more confrontational. Once we know the style of the new government, we can probably then make some judgments about what sort of policies will actually flow from it, including fiscal policy.
Polls at the moment are showing that the Republicans are likely to get a majority in the House. Could we then have a situation in which you have two different majorities in the two chambers? And what does that mean for economic policy, political deadlock?
Well, it does suggest that there's a greater risk that any policy initiatives will take a lot longer to actually be achieved, and they'll probably won't be very good ones because they'll be watered down to try and accommodate all the different opposing forces' desires. And I've got to say too, there's also an ongoing and valid debate about just how effective further fiscal stimulus might be in the US. With the budget deficit so high already, some households and businesses might say, well, stimulus now simply means taxes are going to go up at some point in the future, so I better save more now in anticipation of that, which means that the stimulus could actually be counterproductive in terms
of something off growth.
That's right. Yeah. So that's one side of the argument. The Krugman side of the argument is throw as much money as you can, but nevertheless there is a debate, and I think it is a legitimate one. The US economy, really frankly, is going to be in for a period of some years of subpar growth, particularly because of the constrained situation of the state and local governments. As we saw in the last set of payrolls figures, they are shaving jobs month after month after month.
And James, as you say, a great deal of debate as to whether or not stimulus will actually be effective. Nevertheless, the markets are primed for more stimulus. What are your expectations in terms of the exact size and timing? Well,
when you say the market's primed, you're talking, of course, about the Fed's stimulus as opposed to the fiscal stimulus that we may or may not get from Congress. Our view is we'll probably see in total about $1.5 trillion worth of quantitative easing, but it won't all be announced up front. If you sort of take the Bill Dudley's calculations and a reasonable assessment of what the Taylor rule's telling you, you should have a Fed funds rate of around -3% at the moment. And so to get to that equivalent in terms of QE, we assess that you'd need somewhere between 1.4 and 3 trillion
for it to be effective
of QE. Well, to meet the Taylor rule requirement of a cash rate equivalent. Will it be effective? That's another big question. It was effective when the banking system was really in trouble. It helped save the banking system. So you've got to say that QE1 did a good job. QE2 is just really about trying to get the economy going. When households really don't want to spend, they want to save more, and there's concerns about the banking sector still lingering as well. Small business in particular is really in trouble at the moment. I don't really see how QE2 is going to help the small business sector, and that's where all the jobs growth is going to come, when the small business sector starts turning around.
James Shugg, chief economist for Westpac Banking, thank you very much for coming in.